Hey, what's up? My name's Chris, and I'm just going to briefly go over my language learning history. I kind of promised this video within the week, and tomorrow makes a week, so I kind of need to get that out today. So I've got some notes here, and I'm just going to real quickly go through the languages I've learned and why I ended up with Esperanto in the end. A long time ago, maybe 25 years, I'm guessing, was my first encounter with French. My friend had a French dictionary. We would just read and look up words that we thought would be cool to say in English. So fast forward a few years now. Just a side note: I'm from South Louisiana, so there was a lot of French culture down there. So a lot of French was spoken, and I knew of Cajun French, but I'd never really heard a whole lot of it, and I didn't really hear a whole lot of it till later on, because I'm not from so far down the bayou as you would have to go to hear that Cajun French. But I would, from time to time, even when I was older, hear it spoken in like dentist or doctors' waiting rooms and stuff like that. But so fast forward a few years, and I ended up taking French in high school. They were offering French and Spanish, and it was kind of rotating on the years, and I happened to end up with the year of learning French. So I studied 2 years of French in high school, made good grades, but it still never really grabbed onto me real hard like it did later on. At that point, though, I did decide, this would be cool to learn a language and go to Paris when I get married or something like that. So from that point, I really kind of want to go to Paris when I got married to speak French. So I did the French for 2 years. I didn't really learn a whole lot. Like they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And all I remember from French is just lists of words that we had to memorize, and the teacher constantly telling us to be quiet and open our books. So that's French. Later on, after I was in college, I got on to Japanese. Japanese was just so exotic of a language that had no idea and had zero knowledge of how to speak it or what the characters meant. I just kind of wanted to tackle something like that. I thought it would be cool to learn a language that was just so far off from anything we knew around there. So I started studying Japanese, and I got real big into Japanese. I bought tons of books, the dictionary. I did the Pimsleur course. I started learning the written language, which I think is where I messed up. Learning the spoken language Japanese and the written language Japanese are kind of like learning two languages at one time. The writing language, you have kind of like three alphabets, kind of. One of them is hiragana, katakana, and then you have kanji. So the hiragana and the katakana are easy to learn. They're real kind of simple characters, but the kanji are the Chinese characters, and they're real just busy. They're real there's a lot going on with those characters, and there's a certain stroke order that you have to take, and they can have multiple meanings. So here I was trying to learn all the writing at the same time as trying to learn how to speak and hear and read and understand. And I think I just overdid it. I kind of lost. It had hindered my progress so much trying to learn the written language that I just came almost to a dead stop, and I just ended up kind of leaving it alone for a while. But after that, I kind of got onto German for a little bit. Started studying German, and then, but at the same time, I decided, well, I want to learn Spanish. So I started studying Spanish at the same time I was learning German, and I think that was another problem because I was just kind of overloaded my brain. The German ended up falling off, and I stuck with Spanish for a little while. Started doing index cards, and if I need to back up a little bit, when I was learning Japanese, I read a book by Barry Farber, who was kind of like the first polyglot I had heard of. He put a book out called How to Learn Any Language, and that was such a motivational book for me. And even now, if I read it today, I know I'd be all about learning languages. But I recommend that book. I know it's kind of older, and now you got the newer guys like Benny Lewis and his Fluent in 3 Months book, and other polyglots who have written books. But if you want to get a book that's very motivational for how to study languages and a lot of techniques, read his book, How to Learn Any Language. So anyway, I was on Spanish for a while. I dropped it off, and then later on, and I went back and forth to French multiple times. I don't even know how many times I've been back and forth to French, but more times than I can think of. And even Spanish, I went back and forth 2 or 3 times. German at least twice. So after Spanish, I went back to German, and I got real big into German. I really intensely studied German this time. I was doing the index cards, like 6 words per card. I learned like 600 words in 2 weeks. And I think I just kind of overdid it. My brain was just tired, and I just did too much in too short of a time, and I ended up getting burned out. And I've tried it the other way. I've gone real slow, and decided not to do intensely, but to do it kind of slow, and it's just too slow for me, and then I just get bored, which is what I did with Russian. Later I did Russian, the Pimsleur. I decided I'm not going to spend any money on books. I'm not going to do the whole index card thing. I'm just going to listen and learn. But it was just moving too slowly, and I just got bored with it. So I went back to Spanish more recently, like last year, and I got really into it this time. And I was reading, I was listening to the podcast, I was speaking with people at work, and I don't know what happened. I fell away from it. So after that, I got really angry, and I decided, screw languages. I'm done with languages. I had to clean out my closet where I kept all my library of language books, and I decided I'm just going to get rid of them, so I don't have the temptation to even go back to them. So I got rid of all of them, took them all to the Salvation Army. I hated doing it, and I kind of wish I wouldn't have done it now, but it is what it is. And at that point, I had said I had written off language learning. I was done with it. I just felt like it was just a royal waste of time. My entire life, spending all this time learning languages and learning something that I never even ended up using. So I never got to fluency in any language. I have all these words just inside my head, just all over from different languages, and I can recall words and I can hear words and understand words, but I can't really speak them at a comfortable level. So why am I learning Esperanto? I'd heard of Esperanto years and years ago. I knew it was a made-up language, and or a constructed language. And before I went back to Spanish this last time, I decided I'm going to try to make my own language, and I found out about conlangs. I didn't never heard the word before, but I found out that's what Esperanto was, and so a constructed language. So I decided to make my own. So I started making my own language called Tetranoth, and I had the whole alphabet. I had about 60 words made. I had some grammar, and then I just kind of got bored with it as well. So, but it's still out there, and who knows? Maybe I'll go back to it. But so I recently read something and saw something about Esperanto. So I decided to, let me look and see what it's about. So, and just from there on, I just kind of the first day I looked it up was the very first day I just decided I'm gonna start studying it. I really like the idea of it. It seems like the community's great. And the idea of having just this international language, it kind of puts you on common ground with people from other cultures. I can speak with somebody in Japan. I don't have to put the effort into learning such a huge language like Japan and like Japanese, and he doesn't have to learn English. But if we both know Esperanto, then we have a common ground. So it's been touted as the easiest language in the world to learn, so I thought I'll give it a try. So here I am 3 weeks later, and I'm loving it, and decided to start the YouTube channel just for motivation and to help me with my speaking. And it's been really, really good thing because I've had several comments, and I've had to learn a lot of words and stuff by reading and answering comments. So that's where I am. I'm on Esperanto. It's been an actual huge boost and a motivational boost for language learning. And now I'm just like, wow, I really want to go back to the languages I've studied in the past. But I'm focused this time. I'm only going to focus on one. I've learned a lot in my language past, and I get into some of that in other videos of what works for me and what doesn't work for me. I figured all this out, I think, over the past 25 years and all this study of language. And I'm going the path that I think I need to take with Esperanto. I'm doing away with all the bad that I did on those other languages, and I'm trying to attack Esperanto with a different method. So that's my story on language learning. That's all I got. So subscribe to my channel if you'd like to keep up with my Esperanto studies. I'm putting out weekly videos showing my progress, and the week 3 video should hopefully be out tomorrow or Saturday after this video. Well, if you're watching this video in the future, I guess it's going to be kind of weird that I said that. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. See you.